Welcome to the Daily Deuce. I'm Gary Graves from just outside cloudy but muggy Louisville, Kentucky, and in Maryland, where I'm sure the weather is much better, if not probably the same. John Webster, how you doing, Big John?
Yeah, I'm doing real good, man. But the weather is rough out here in Maryland. Last week we've
Oh
had nothing
yeah.
but rain and thunderstorms, and they got another thunderstorm coming today, and probably another one coming tomorrow. But it's getting to be really my kind of weather though, Gary, because it's going up to 90. We're almost to 100. We're almost to 100, and that's
Yeah.
when I get real happy.
It hit 90 here one day last week, and it's just been really hot ever since then.
Mhm.
I mean, well, I shouldn't say hot. It's just been muggy, man. It's just been really humid, and
Yeah.
yeah, we've had rain almost every day. It kind of reminds me when I was in Florida. Yep, and
Yeah.
we'll we'll get to
You
we'll get to
know,
Florida in a minute with talk wrapping up the Stanley Cup playoffs, but.
uh,
Oh, John, I tell you, these NBA finals, it's like I wanna feel good about OKC, which was my pick. They're up 3-2. They've won two straight, seem to have momentum, seem to have a rhythm, but I am not ready to count out the Indiana Pacers by any stretch, especially going back home, trying to save their season, trying to, of course, avoid elimination. And all it takes is one game, and if you get to game seven, the best two words in sports, anything can happen. What do you think?
been an interesting playoff, interesting series so far. Um, I think Indiana, when they lost game four, that was huge because one, that OKC was able to reestablish home court, but two, Indiana had that game, but they could not do anything in the fourth quarter. Matter of fact, you and I were talking throughout the game, like the last 7 minutes, they were outscored 25-15 by OKC. And Gilgis Alexander showed why he is who he is. He took over the game and made some very good plays, as well as Jalen Williams. So I think that hurt. Going
Mm,
into game five at OKC, rough game for them. They made a lot of turnovers. They hung in there. They had their chance, Gary, but they couldn't get over the hump. The concern is now with Halliburton with his calf, how far he can go, if he'll be able to go Thursday night. I think he'll play. His effectiveness is a whole nother story. He played in that game. He made some very good assists, got some good rebounds. He played hard. He's injured. But in order for them to win, it is very important that Halliburton is able to score.
mm.
He had some point, but I think he was 0 for from the field on Sunday night, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, no field goals. Everything, I think it was what,
Killed
4 points,
three.
4 or 5 points are all at the line, and
Yeah.
and the easy part is saying that's not going to get it done, but I I think I think for him, he was trying to create shots near the basket, but it was becoming apparent that unless he's like outside, and they did an effective job denying him from outside, but unless he's from outside, it's hard for him to get going. I think, again, a sharpshooter like him who thrives on that, a team that thrives on that, um, that's what they need to really, get the car going. And I don't know. I'm a little surprised, John, that other guys haven't stepped up like they were those first, two or three games. And one guy that I thought was going to be a huge factor, maybe even a bigger factor than Halliburton, is Pascal Siakam. And in game four, I don't think he touched the ball in like the last 7, 8 minutes. And that's not going to get it done for them either. They need other guys to step up, and with Halliburton hobbled, somebody's got to do something to kind of take the load off of him, and they got to free him up a little bit just to get a few shots. Anything that can really jumpstart this offense and really just it's not so much jumpstart the offense, but solve that defense because that's the thing. They're speeding Indiana up a lot more than even they want to on offense, and I think that's the thing that's been key to these last two victories.
Well, you say speeding up. I say OKC slowing them down. I don't think Indiana has the pace that they need to win games. They need like 110 points. I know the last game they got 109. And then in the what was how many did they get in the game for? About 108, 109. But
Hmm.
they're not getting the tempo they need.
Yes.
Siakam is important. You got to have him playing, and you got to have him getting touches late in the game. He's important. But I'm gonna tell you somebody else that I think is important. I think you're gonna have to couple things. I think you're gonna have to get some more production out of Miles Turner. You're going to have
Yep.
to get him hitting the boards. You're going to have to get him as close to a double double as possible. He's going to need to score a double in points, and he's going to need to come as close as possible to double in rebounds. I think you need to get Ben Matherin back on page again. He's struggling. Game 4, you remember, he's like an 85, 86% foul shooter. He missed 3 out of 4 late in the game. I think you need to get him back on page again because he's very important coming off the bench. Very
Mhm.
important. TJ McConnell, I think, had a pretty decent game in game 5. You still need to have him do that. The thing that you have to figure out, you have to look at how do you maximize Halliburton at the same time of minimizing his minutes. You have to do a maximization by minimizing because I'm not sure how long he can go. And he's like any other player. I'm not going to tell you the truth. He's going to go until you can't go anymore. And you don't want him to end up injuring or hurting himself. So you got to figure out the best way. He's important. You can't take him out of the equation, but you got to protect him from himself. That means others are going to have to step up. This is why I say game 4 was so important because if they had beaten OKC, they would have been up 3-1. And this calf injury is something that's lingering. It's nothing new. It's been going on. If I'm Rick Carlisle, if I won game 4, I'm sitting him and playing him in game 6. You don't have the luxury right now to sit him if he can go. You got to play everybody. Everybody's got to be out there. And we you just got to see what's going to happen, man. Speaking of OKC, you can't take anything away from them. Gilgeous-Alexander is playing really well. Jalen Williams went for 40 points the other night. He's he what did he go for in game 4? 34 or something like that, or
Yeah, I think it
30?
was 34. And
Yeah, so
I
he
mean, excuse me, that's scary that well, I mean, I'm not gonna call him a secondary player by any stretch, but SGA has kind of been, I think, what one of the stories you read on my old employer's website was that he's been Robin to Jalen Williams as Batman, and we're talking about the MVP who's kind of taken a secondary role or has been a secondary scorer, and that's what's scary about OKC right now, and the fact that um, the big guy. I mean, he's been hobbled. He's been getting knocked all over the floor. Chet Holmgren has been knocked all over the floor, but he gets back up. He's playing hurt, much like Halliburton, and he's still effective at both ends. And they're finding a way to limiting his minutes, alluding to your point about Tyrese Halliburton, maybe in terms of trying to limit his minutes and get and get the most out of him. The word efficiency is what I'm looking for.
oh, see if I am if I am Indiana, it's my turn to make a chess move. So the first thing I got to do again is figure out maximization with minimization for Halliburton. That's the first thing I got to figure out. Another thing I got to figure out is how do I'm not going to stop Gilgis Alexander, and right now it looks like I'm not going to stop Jalen Williams. But how do I limit Jalen Williams? How do I make sure he doesn't go off for another 40 piece? How do I, you got to readjust your defense, and whoever he's checking on defense, you got to make him work on that. Another thing I think Indiana needs to work on as well, when you do these pick and rolls and you get Chad Holmgren 25 feet away from the basket, you got to take advantage of it. You got to make sure you do your rolls, and when you're rolling to the basket, you hit the open man. You got to hit that open shot. You know, I think those are things they got to do. If I'm Indiana, maybe I'm playing a little bit more zone too. To force OKC into side shooting. Got to do a better job of controlling the glass. Got to do a better job of rebounding. That really killed them in Game 4, and it hurt them also in Game 5. Gotta get some rebounds. That comes back to Miles Turner. That comes back to Obi Toppin. You got to be strong down low. Your aircraft carriers have to establish themselves in the paint and shut that lane down. It's very important. That's what I see. Now, if I am OKC, one thing I'm going to do is attack Halliburton. Find out how strong that calf is. That's the first thing I'm going to do. The other thing I'm going to do is continue to limit the possessions of Indiana. That's a key, Gary. Limit the possessions. As long as they're playing at the pace they want, there's not going to be as many possessions for Indiana. When it starts becoming less possessions for Indiana, like any other team, you're used to a fast pace and you're slowing it down, you're going to rush when you get a shot because you're not sure how many more you're going to get. So you're going to have to continue. They're going to have to continue to limit Indiana on shots. They're going to have to continue to attack the boards. Hartenstein is doing a tremendous job coming in there and cleaning up that glass. Holmgren's doing a good job as well, too. So I'm still sticking with Indiana, Gary. Had that discussion with Dante last night. He asked me, Pops, you still going with Indiana? The answer is yes. Indiana in 7. I still go that way.
Yeah. Again, Indiana is a dangerous team. They're dangerous enough that I think that they could, obviously win at home, force a seventh game. And again, at that point, it's a toss-up. Going back to what I was saying earlier about OKC speeding them up, you're right. They have that when they get across half court, they slow them down. That ball movement, it's almost like they're just standing around. Where OKC, I think, has really caused them to again play. They're not getting those outlet passes. They're forcing them to dribble more in the backcourt, really try to put, they're trying to keep them, what's that word? They're trying to keep them inside the timeline and force them to really like kind of think with the ball. That's where I think they're really disrupting them. They get it across half court. I think that's where the slowing up has been effective because it's almost like they're waiting for somebody to step up. Um, where is Siakam effective? Doing cleanup work, just being active at the lane, coming in, cleaning up shots, taking the ball to the hole. But there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of movement, and I think that's where they're really confusing them. And again, in the backcourt, they're really making them think as opposed to say against the Knicks every time they got the ball, they had 4 guys up court. They knew where that ball was going. Now they're keeping 2 guys in the backcourt, forcing them to pass back there, and that's not something that they're used to, at least not in these playoffs.
Hey, Gary. OKC has done a wonderful job at slowing them down. They've done a wonderful job at making them have to. Indiana has a magnificent offense. Don't think they can't play half court basketball. They can play half court, but they like getting up and down through the half court. But what OKC has forced them to do, more passes, more dribbling out high above the top of the key, and that's taking time off the shot clock. And when you finally get into some semblance of an offense, you're 25 or 30 feet away from the basket, and that's tough. And then also you have guys who are not hitting shots like they normally do. You need to get that production back. You need McConnell off the bench. You need Matherin off the bench. You need Toppin off the bench. You need Naismith to go back to hitting some shots. You need Shepard. All these guys, they can go 9 deep. They need them because Halliburton will play in Game 6. There's no doubt in my mind. But how
Right.
long he will play, I'm not sure. So that's where everybody else needs to step up and make this a Game 7.
Right. All right, John. Let's see. Baseball. Your Baltimore Orioles. See, they swept over the weekend. I think that was that their first sweep this season.
No, they swept the White Sox.
Oh yeah. Well, everybody sweeps the White Sox, but then again, everybody sweeps the Colorado Rockies except for maybe the Washington Nationals. But that's another discussion. John, this time last month, we were looking at a team that was headed toward 15 games under 500, basically hurtling toward maybe 20 games under 500, looking at maybe a 100-loss season. Now they're within 5 or 6 games of the wild card. Um, they seem to have righted the ship. They're getting they're getting some people healthy, which I always thought that's what was going to happen with them, for them to improve. But a season that seemed lost is now not so lost. And we talked about this during the week about the firing of Brandon Hyde, and yeah, it's a knee-jerk reaction that teams make when a team is struggling, but maybe they shouldn't have fired him, even though the interim guy has got him to a point. But you raised the point about what happens now if they finish decent. What if they make the playoffs? And my first question for you is, do they make the playoffs? I mean, do they get into playoff contention? That's what I mean.
Fair question, Gary. They're playing well right now. They're playing Tampa Bay, 4 game series. They've won one and lost one so far. Then they have 3 games coming up against the Yankees, and I think they got a Texas Rangers after that. I think, if I'm not mistaken. So they're 6 games out of the wild card right now. Nobody saw that about a month ago. It's a possibility, but it also makes for some hard decision making at the end of July. Do you keep players or do you trade some of them off? You see, I'm of a belief this Orioles team, uh, they don't need another rebuild. What they need desperately is some pitching, desperately, at starting pitching, as I've always said. And they need to have some more luck. And I call it luck because that's all it is with injuries. It's either you're going to get hurt now, and it's nothing you can really do about that sometimes. It's luck. But 2 years ago, they were one of the least injured teams in baseball. Now they're the most injured team in baseball. You get, let me show you how crazy it is for injuries, Gary. And I'm going to answer some other questions for you as well. You get Cedric Mullins back. You get Jordan Westburg back. Both of them doing very well. You get them back. 2 days later, Cade Povich is just going on injured list, a pitcher. Now, let me give you another number, Gary, so you can really scratch your head. Coming out of spring training, the Orioles had 10 starting pitchers. Do you have the number I'm saying? 10. Of those 10, 8 are either on injured reserve or have been on injured reserve this season. 8 out of your 10 projected starting pitchers. It's hard to win. Very hard to win. But the thing is, I'll always say, you can't make excuses. You got to play what you dealt with. But also, what I will say, though, is with this Brandon Hyde situation, I've always said I never want to see anybody lose their job. That's very unfortunate. But to let Brandon Hyde go, I mean, it was during the Washington National Series. Very unfortunate, and your Nats swept the Orioles. But you're letting him go then, and it's 4 months to a season. It's nothing him or Tony Massolino could have done with what was going on. And I will stand to say this again. I'm not condoning anybody losing their job, but I will say this: After they lost to Kansas City last year in the playoffs, I'm almost positive this was coming across their minds about whether they want to keep Brandon Hyde or not. They should have let him go then. Instead of you let somebody go and you still got 4 months to the season. That's not what you do. That's not what a real organization does to win. Yeah, the Yankees have done that a couple times, but you're not the Yankees. Pittsburgh Pirates let their manager go, but Pittsburgh's going nowhere fast. The Orioles are not the Pittsburgh Pirates. My point is, whether Marcelino's there, and I give credit to Marcelino, great job so far. He's 16-13, or whether Brandon Hyde was there, I think the same results would have happened. Because think about it, you're getting Jordan Westburg back, you're getting Cedric Mullins back, you're getting Ramon Urias back, and also another one just went on injury reserve, Ryan Mountcastle. He went on injury reserve with a hamstring injury, and he's not projected back. His is really bad. He's not due back for 12 weeks. That's September. So basically, you say he's gone for the season. So, and the pitching situation, Eflin missed 15 or 20 days. That's like, was it 3 starts? He missed it because he had some type of lat or shoulder injury. Um, it's just injury on top of injury. Laureano went down for a while. Todd O'Neill, the guy they brought in for $45 million, is still on injured reserve, still hurt. You just don't have what you need. The thing I'm seeing across Major League Baseball, though, a lot of teams are suffering injuries. A lot of teams are suffering pitching injuries. Kansas City this week just lost Cole Reagans. They don't know how long he's going to go. I sat and watched Washington Nationals play the Arizona Diamondbacks about 2 weeks ago. Watching the game, saw exactly when Corbin Burns got hurt. Terribly unfortunate. He's out for Tommy John surgery now. The things are just happening with these injuries that it's unfortunate, and it depends on what kind of luck you're having trying to get through these injuries. I hope the Orioles can continue to turn it around. I myself am just hoping for an 81-81 season. I just want to be able to make 500, but we'll see how it goes for this wild card. They have potential. They have a lot of talented players, whether it's Jackson Holiday, whether it's Gunnar Henderson. Adley Rushman is starting to hit better as well. Jordan Westberg is a key. Colton Cowles is another one. Just got him back 2 weeks ago. He was gone for almost 10 weeks with a broken hand or a broken thumb or something. So all of this, he's gone, and Mullins was gone for a while at the same time. That's 2/3 of your starting outfield, Gary. Yes, you got to play with what you dealt. But doggone, man. Now, one thing I will say, and I mentioned to you before the show started today, what I think is really great. They're playing at Tampa Bay right now, and they're playing outdoors. And I love the whole fact they're playing outdoors. And I told you before the show started, I hope they never rebuild that stadium because I want them to stay outdoors without a roof. Baseball, just like football, should be played outdoors.
Agreed. Um, when I think about the Rays situation, it also reminded me of the Athletics, no longer in Oakland, playing in Sacramento at a minor league stadium. And I don't know if you've watched any games. You probably watched the Orioles series there a couple of weeks ago, but
An absolute nightmare.
yeah, it was a nightmare for the Orioles. But it was so strange to hear noise at an athletics game. It hasn't helped their fortunes on the field. I mean, they're just biding their time until they go to Las Vegas. But it reminded me about how much fun it is to watch baseball, maybe in a smaller environment. And excuse me, no matter what happens with the Rays situation, my feeling is, you want them to play outside. I want them to play at a place that really suits their capacity. And having lived in Florida, um, I left before the Rays came into existence, but I was there long enough to become a Florida Marlins fan. Now the Miami Marlins. And okay, there's two things. One, Florida, everybody thinks Florida is like this great sporting environment, and it isn't. It really isn't because it's warm all the time. They say there's too many other things to do there. Yeah, that's true. And that's even for football, because if you got a sunny Sunday afternoon, are you going to sit out in the hot sun watching football? Or are you going to go to the beach? Or are you going to grill? Are you going to do anything but sit someplace in the sun? The thing about the Rays is nobody is going to drop across that bridge to go see the Rays. So playing in Tampa might be the best thing for them. I think it wherever they play, they got to figure out something to stay on the Tampa side of the bay. Maybe build a smaller stadium. They can use it for spring training. I mean, it'll be a place that they're in year round, or work out some kind of deal with the Yankees to stay at Legends Field because that seems to be better for them. And like you said, it's better watching them outdoors than playing in that sterile place across the bay.
I agree with you, Gary. I'm old fashioned. I mean, Dante's told me this over and over again. I'm an old, grumpy old man, and I, I just don't see any purpose in playing a baseball game out indoors. The best thing
Yeah.
is for it outdoors. I mean, me, I love a Colorado Rocky game in April, and then I love it even more when they make the playoffs, whenever they do make the playoffs in October, because it's cold. It's like for the longest time, I couldn't really get into the Minnesota Twins. And that was because they had a great team, Jack Morris, Kirby Puckett, but they were playing indoors, man. They're back
hmm
outdoors now. I just, you got to be outside. You got to be
hmm
outside. That's what I really love.
Yeah. Hey, got a trivia question for you. Remember
Okay.
Metropolitan Stadium?
Yep.
You know what it is now, right?
Would that be the mall?
Yep, the Mall of America. Great answer. Great
The
answer.
Simon family.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Excuse me, based in Indianapolis. The only reason why I knew that is because of all those years of covering the Indy 500. All right, John. So as we move from baseball to hockey, which just wrapped up before we went on the air with the Stanley Cup, the Florida Panthers are repeat Stanley Cup champions. They beat Edmonton 5-1 and repeated. I think well, let me ask you this. And I know you don't follow hockey as closely as I do, but when a team goes back to back in hockey, do, is it fair to start wondering about a dynasty, especially since Florida has been in the finals 3 years in a row now, and they've won two. They've beaten, Edmonton both times, but I don't see this team showing any signs of let up even with older guys like Andrew Marchand. I mean, but Bobrovsky, the goalie, he's been there for a minute too. But the way that they scored last night, um, I just don't see them letting up. And I just want to get your thoughts about hockey dynasty since we haven't really seen that.
I think the Florida Panthers are they can be a dynasty. They've won two in a row. They've been there the last 3 years. I don't think they're going to slow down. To be honest with you, you had some dynasties in hockey. The team they played in this series the last 2 years, the Edmonton Oilers,
hmm
Messier and Gretzky, they were a dynasty. What was it New York Islanders? What was it Dennis Potvin? You
Yeah,
know,
but John, we're talking about 40 years ago. I
yeah,
mean,
but you can still have a dynasty today, Gary. I know it's a different day and time. I know it's different with free agency, but I still think you can have some semblance of a dynasty. And the Florida Panthers are a good example of doing that. I mean, 3 straight years they've been there, they won it two straight. I think I'm not saying they're a dynasty yet.
hmm
Gotta win it at least three in a row. Gotta win at
hmm
least three in a row. But I think they're on the right path to being a dynasty.
yeah.
Definitely a solid organization.
hmm Yeah, the thing about hockey, we like to talk about home field advantage, home court advantage. Um, you'd like to even think that there's home ice advantage, but that doesn't exist in hockey because, it's truly a game of where the puck rolls, how the puck bounces, how the puck drops. But what I've seen, and speaking of Florida, that most recently with the Tampa Bay Lightning, when they were going seemingly every other year, I think before that, we were looking at the Chicago Blackhawks, that won something
Yeah.
like three titles or something in 5 years, in the 2010s. That
I didn't mean cut you off, Greg, but what about the Detroit Red Wings?
Oh
Didn't
yeah,
they?
yeah. But again, that one, we're probably going back maybe about 20 years on that one. But
Okay.
I'm just trying to keep it like say, within the last, say 15 years, that keeping that nucleus together, especially a young nucleus, is has been really important for a lot of these teams. And the Florida Panthers aren't necessarily young, but they've got like their experience is pretty balanced. They've got older guys, they've got guys in the middle that are hitting their prime, and they've got a good young nucleus as well. And that's why I asked the question about a dynasty, because again, we're talking about hockey in South Florida as the hockey capital of the world right now. Nobody would have thought that, in South Florida, we were talking about the Heat not too long ago as a possible dynasty with LeBron and D Wade, and I think that the thing what scares me about Florida is that they save their best for the postseason. I mean, and while that's it's kind of like duh on the one hand, that people were writing them off because they finished in third place. In fact, people were writing off Edmonton because they were in third place. You had two third place divisional teams that played in the final. And to me, it just shows that, yeah, it'd be nice if you won 50 games, Washington Capitals. Um, but what you're supposed to do is save your best for when it matters most. And, guys that were kind of banged up and, during the season, they get healthy, you hold them out of a few games. That's what's scary to me about Florida.
Yeah. And then you mentioned the Caps. The Caps, they won the first series against Montreal. Then they got eliminated by Carolina. And you
Yeah,
sometimes
so
you
yeah,
want to do, yeah,
yeah,
second
second
round.
round. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes you do the what ifs. And I'll say this in my opinion: if they had gone to the second round and played Florida, Florida would have taken them apart. And I don't think there's anyone, definitely in hockey, but definitely in the East, that can match up with them. They play their best hockey in the playoffs. They had some challenges during the regular season, but they played best in the playoffs and won another Stanley Cup. And plus, you know, I don't know hockey the way you do, Gary, by no means. And it's a great sport. I enjoy watching it. But I listen to some of the commentators and that home ice advantage they have, because that ice is hard to stay ice in Florida. It melts sometimes. And
Yeah.
maybe it melts at the most inopportune time for the Edmonton Oilers. But but hey, it is what it is, man. And Florida Panthers are Stanley Cup champs again. My hat is off to them. Wonderful organization. My magical number is 3. If they come back and win a third straight, yes, they're a dynasty.
All right. Well, there's been a lot to talk about, and there'll probably be a lot to talk about. We still got the WNBA, and probably, well, maybe by the time we meet again, maybe there'll be a seventh game in the NBA playoffs, the NBA finals. Who knows? But we've still got baseball. Oh, and shout out to the DC Defenders for winning the XFL championship. John, we don't put a whole lot of stock. We haven't talked about spring football at all. But for a DC team to go out there and win and beat a really good Michigan Panthers team by, by 3 touchdowns, that's impressive. Does that whet the appetite for DC sports fans until the Commanders hit the field this fall?
I'll reserve comment on the Commanders. Um,
Okay.
I also, but I do congratulate the Washington. I'm sorry, the DC Defenders. Great championship for them, beating the Michigan Panthers. It was no doubt they were ahead most of the game, but 20. I think they ended up winning 58-34. They were in
Mhm.
control of the game. Very good team, very good organization.
Yep. Closed the deal after coming up short last year, and congratulations to them. Folks, watch all the sports you can because look, it takes your mind off of everyday life. It's a release, it's entertainment. Watch it, come back and watch us on Facebook, on YouTube. We'll send you a link if you email us or text us. John, take us home.
Hey, another great week in sports. Thanks for joining in with us. As Gary said, watch some basketball, watch the WNBA, watch the NBA, watch some soccer. John Pitt's first love. Watch some soccer.
Track and
Track and
field
field,
too. Let's
track and
watch some
field
track and
season.
field.
You got some golf you can watch. You got some tennis you can watch. But above all else, just watch some sports and come back and see us real soon. Take care. We'll see you.